So in recent years, people such as myself have been looking for cheaper alternative housing. Why? One reason why is house prices continue to go up. The second reason why is because people such as myself has realized that they don't use the majority of their home. A home is very inefficient. You usually have a spare bedroom, a spare bathroom. You don't use your formal dining room. And so all this excess is a waste of money, waste of time, waste of energy to clean and maintain. You could have something such as a condo, which I had, but then you're entangled in an HOA. Whether you have a condo or whether you have a single family home, you're entangled in property taxes. So when I went on a journey a few years ago, sold my condo that I owned for 15 years, and I was looking at downsizing, originally I had looked at the possibility of a tiny home. The problem with a tiny home is most counties or townships will not allow you to put a home on a piece of property if your home is less than a certain square footage. And the general square footage in most populated areas is they want your home to be at least 1,000 square foot home. That's not a tiny house. A tiny house, I believe, is considered about 300 square foot or less. So to me, it's like they don't want you to be able, even if you buy property and you own it, you do the right thing, you're trying to buy, they don't want you to have a non-conforming house. Society doesn't. The township doesn't, because it'll affect you. You won't really be paying much property tax. Banks, who pretty much own legislation, banks and the lobbyists and the Federal Reserve, they're all connected. They're the biggest ones that make money off housing. Why? Because banks usually create a loan, and that creates money, that creates debt, that keeps the economic system churning when you buy a house. Because most people buy a house too big and they have to borrow money. And also, look, the construction industry. When you buy a house and you renovate it, and the home builders, most home builders are publicly traded companies. Home Depot is a publicly traded company. Lowe's hardware store, publicly traded company. These big corporations, they make a lot of money when you buy and sell property because you're going to renovate it, all the entanglements that go along with working on it. So it's an economic boom for society when you buy and sell a house, because you got to repair it or you're going to renovate it. And construction workers are hired, materials are ordered, bankers make money, real estate agent make money, municipality make money on your taxes and your permits. Everyone's making money except you. You, the homeowner, you're losing money. And so what you'll find out, like me, is the most stressful day in your life is when you buy a house. The most relief in your life is when you sell a house. The problem is, when you sell a house, where are you going to go? I ended up living in my car. Not because I was destitute, but because I looked at my options. Always look at your options. I said, well, option one is I could buy a tiny home, but I could buy property, but I can't put a tiny home on land in a populated area. I would have to go live in the middle of the country or the middle of nowhere. I don't want to do that. So I eliminated that option. And then I looked at an RV. I said, well, I'll just buy a little RV, little travel trailer. You can get a cheap new travel trailer, small one, for about 10 grand. But of course, municipalities won't let you put that on property. Even some property in the country, you can't just put an RV, a travel trailer or motorhome or whatever, on a piece of property you own. Again, the system, the municipalities, the banks, the construction industry, the home improvement industry, the real estate agents, all the system that creates money off housing. And I guess it does provide jobs and money flow, but it also entraps people in debt. Your home is your second biggest expense in your life. Having a child is your number one expense. Having a home is your second biggest expense. So it's like, damn, you can't even own property and do what you want with it. Well, and I'm not talking about doing something like hurtful or harmful, but it's a shame, because it's but it's the way the world works. Don't try to make the world perfect. No, it's all right. So I looked at, well, if I get a travel trailer, and then I eliminated tiny homes, not just because of that, but because they're static. they're stuck. Once you put a tiny home down, you ain't really going to move it. Some of them have wheels, but... So I said the RV is better than the tiny home because it's more mobile, less entanglement. Problem with that is you're stuck in campgrounds. The minute you get any RV, other than maybe a Class B van, you're pretty much tied down to campgrounds. Yes, you can boondock in the middle of nowhere, but again, for me, that's not the lifestyle I like. So I went back to, well, I don't want to buy a regular house. Tiny house is too hard to find a place to put it, too much regulation. The RV, again, you can own property, but you can't put your RV on your property unless you have a house on your property. And I don't really want to be tied to campgrounds if I don't have to be. I don't mind going, but I don't want to be tied to them. So I said, I'm young enough, I'm healthy enough, I'll live in my car. Now, again, if something happens to me, I have to have an exit strategy, and I do. But my plan now as a 40-year-old man, I mean, I'll look for an opportunity if it arises, if it makes sense financially and emotionally. But my plan now is maybe I'll just live in a car until I'm into my 60s, then a van or a Class B. I don't know. I mean, I could buy a piece of property tomorrow, but the biggest problem is very important. The biggest problem with owning property is you may quote unquote own it, but you are subject to the regulation and rules of society. And not just because of like big government. I mean, I understand society. Like, if there were no rules and anyone, you could build a million, you can invest buy a $500,000 house and someone can buy a piece of property next to you and put a trailer, a 10,000 travel trailer. Would you be happy with that? So I understand there has to be structure. I don't begrudge structure. I don't begrudge rules and regulations, but everything becomes out of balance. There should be some areas that, can be zoned for that without HOAs. Now, in my mind, as I say that, to be fair, let's just say you zoned a 10-mile radius in a town where you can put travel trailers on. I mean, I can almost guarantee, even if that was a nice area, if you zone it for travel trailers or RVs, that area is going to be a shithole in about 5 years after everyone buys property and puts travel trailers on it. Because it's going to be probably lower income, lower mindset mentality. And that's the truth. And that's why I understand why society has to regulate. So it is a give and a take. So am I mad at the government or powers to be that have these rules? I'm not mad because I can understand it. I mean, I think they may go a little overboard. But look, like I say, to get ahead, you got to have an abnormal mindset. Or, you got to play the game a little bit, but you're going to have to figure out how to navigate around it. But society ain't going to make it easy for you. Again, I think in America and every other first world country, we're blessed if you look at third world countries. Like, you could go live in a third world country, you could pitch a tent, you can own the property, you can pay no property taxes, but it's going to be a shithole. There's going to be no economy, there's going to be high crime, high corruption, and, you ain't going to want, there's going to be militia, you don't want to own that land. So sometimes people say, I'll go live in this foreign land, the exchange rate is cheap, and there's not property tax. Yeah, but extortion is high, crime is high, and, you're going to get screwed. So everything has a pro and a con. You got to really be diligent and focused to navigate around the system while still playing the game and being legal. But that's kind of the breakdown on how society is structured and why, you can't just buy a cheap little thing and put it on a property, without certain issues. So hopefully this video helps you. This is what I found. Click that thumbs up. Thank you to all my members. Click that blue join button if you'd like to be a member. Get unlimited access to all my live feeds that I do every day. You get a custom badge. You get a custom emoji. Shout out to all my members. Check out my playlist, guys. Keep pushing forward. Stay focused. The grace of God be with you. Hard work be with you. I'll see you in the next one.